Okay. And today's lesson is going to be on cause and effect, and basically identifying what's more important here, because I think we all understand cause and effect, is identifying cause and effect by using signal words. So building on that idea about using signal words is really important here. Okay. And our audio.
A traffic accident blocks the road you travel to get to work. You choose to take another route. This is an example of cause and effect in action. A cause is an action or situation that makes another event happen. Many times, a cause will be directly stated in a text, although sometimes it will be implied. An effect is something that happens as the result of a cause. In the example above, the traffic accident is the cause, and having to find a new route is the effect. Signal words such as accordingly, because, consequently, as a result, therefore, so, then, and to this end can help you identify a cause and its effect.
Yeah, and we all understand cause and effect. I got rabies because the dog bit me. What was the cause of your rabies? The dog biting me. The thing that we want to look at here is also the signal word. So accordingly, because, consequently, as a result, therefore, so, then, and to this end are words that you're going to look for to introduce that cause and effect. And it's important, these transition words and signal words, we talk about them a lot because it's also going to help you when we get to the point where we're writing. These types of transition words and signal words are going to help make your writing flow better. Your ideas will link up better when you're writing, when you use these type of words. And that's long-term what the goal is going to be here. So this is a good way to introduce it as we're sort of strengthening your reading comprehension and looking for these things in text. And a little text passage here to start with. So as always, regardless of what exercises we're doing, always take note of the title. It's always going to be relevant. So, warning on climate change. As the world gets hotter by degrees, millions of poor people will suffer from hunger, thirst, floods, and disease unless drastic action is taken. Scientists and diplomats warned Friday in their bleakest report ever on global warming. All regions of the world will change, with the risk that nearly a third of the Earth's species will vanish if global temperatures rise just 3.6 degrees above the average temperature in the 1980s, 1990s. The new climate report says, areas that now have too little rain will become drier. Yet that grim and still preventable future is a toned-down prediction, a corporate compromise brokered in a fierce, around-the-clock debate among scientists and bureaucrats. Officials from some governments managed to win some weakened wording. And while some scientists were angered at losing some ground, many praised the report as the strongest warning ever that nations must cut back on greenhouse gas emissions. And that's from the AP article, Dire Warning on Climate from 2007. And it says here, noting the underlying text, an author will explain often will explain a cause and likely effects. In this passage, the author lists several effects before the cause, and that's good for an introductory paragraph. Sometimes, you want to kind of get into the fast part of it, right? The meat of what you're talking about, and introducing the effects sometimes can help grip readers, right? We're talking about, you can see that there, right? As the world gets hotter by degrees, millions of poor people are going to suffer from hunger, thirst, floods, and disease, right? You're trying to grab the audience, and then you hit them with the cause, and that's because of global warming. And then our second little text here. So a cause may have more than one effect, and a single effect may have more than one cause. And the effects listed in the passage are all a result of one cause. So here we have that one cause being global warming. And as the earth warms, we know, it can cause widespread suffering, from hunger, thirst, more flooding, diseases. We're going to see issues with global shortages in food because of a lack of water. We're in growing areas and things like that. So moving on, our slide. Okay, and next activity, moving over to the quiz. So let's make sure that we're on Unit 1, Lesson 5, Identify Cause and Effects quiz. And I will hit start. Okay, and same text passage we just went through, talking about climate change and the effects on the environment. Our text here says authors may use cause and effect signal words to guide your reading. However, when these words are not present, you can find a cause or an effect by connecting key ideas or details to one another. So yeah, you're not always going to have the signal words and things that link up, but it's pretty obvious, when an idea is presented like that. When you start talking about effects, when you things are getting affected by, in this case, weather or climate, to link up to what the cause is going to be. All right, so which statement best explains the connection between greenhouse gas emissions in the 4th paragraph and the information in the 1st and 2nd paragraphs? So A, greenhouse gas emissions cause increased rain and flooding. B, endangered species would survive if greenhouse gases were reduced. C, losing ground does not result from greenhouse gas emissions. Or D, greenhouse gas emissions cause global warming. What's our answer there? Have an answer there? Okay.
D.
Yeah, D is in dog. Yeah, greenhouse gas emissions cause global warming. Okay. New passage. Effects of high fructose corn syrup. So, high fructose corn syrup is a sweetener used in many processed foods ranging from sodas to baked goods. While the ingredient is cheaper and sweeter than regular sugar, new research suggests that it can also make you fatter. In a small study, Texas researchers showed that the body converts fructose to body fat with surprising speed, said Elizabeth Parks, associate professor of clinical nutrition at the University of Texas Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas. The study, which appears in the Journal of Nutrition, shows how glucose and fructose, which are forms of sugar, are metabolized differently. In humans, triglycerides, which are a type of fat in the blood, are mostly formed in the liver. Dr. Parks said the liver acts like a traffic cop who coordinates how the body uses dietary sugars. When the liver encounters glucose, it decides whether the body needs to store it, burn it for energy, or turn it into triglycerides. But when fructose enters the body, it bypasses the process and ends up being quickly converted to body fat. The researchers found that lipogenesis, the process by which sugars are turned into fat, increased significantly when the study subjects drinks with fructose. That is an awkward sentence. Increased significantly when the study subjects drank drinks with fructose. That is grammatically correct, but very weird. So when fructose was given at breakfast, the body was more likely to store the fats eaten at lunch. Dr. Parks noted that the study likely underestimates the fat-building effect of fructose because the study subjects were lean and healthy in overweight people. The effect may be amplified. So although fruit contains fructose, it also contains many beneficial nutrients, so dieters shouldn't eliminate fruit from their diets. But limiting processed foods containing high fructose corn syrup, as well as curbing calories, is a good idea, Dr. Parks said. So what is the most likely reason that high fructose corn syrup is used in processed foods instead of regular sugar? A, it's sweeter and more nutritious than sugar. B, it's cheaper and sweeter than sugar. C, it is easier to obtain and has more calories than sugar. D, it is a natural sweetener and therefore more nutritious than sugar.
B.
B. B as in ball.
Yeah, it's B as in boy, right? And, you know, you listen to the news, you'll hear some talk about high fructose corn syrup and stuff. And it's, you know, easy to produce, it's cheap and it's sweeter, but being processed the way it is bad news for your body, as it would appear. So B, it is cheaper and sweeter than sugar. All right, same passage. And how did high fructose corn syrup in drinks affect the bodies of the people in the study? So A, overweight people gain weight. B, lean people gain no weight. C, sugar turned into fat more rapidly when fructose is present. Or D, sugar was digested with corn.
C.
A.
C is in cat. Yeah, sugar turned into fat more rapidly when fructose is present. And 4, same thing. So what does paragraph 6 explain about the result of the study? A, it explains that the study was limited in scope. B, it suggests that results would be the same for a larger group. C, it contradicts the findings of previous. Or D, it confirms the benefits of eating natural fruits.
D, it confirms the benefits of eating natural.
Oh, it's A.
It's A.
Yeah. So if you look back at paragraph 6, right here, it says Dr. Parks noted that the study likely underestimates the fat burning effect of fructose because the study subjects were lean and healthy. So it was only one particular group that they were able to look at. And it says below, right, so you can imply here, so it says in overweight people, the effect may be amplified, which indicates that that was not part of the sample group, right? That they weren't able to test overweight people as well. So A explains the study was limited in scope. And here in paragraph 7, the author notes that fruit contains fructose. How might this information affect a dieter's food plan? A, dieters should eat fruit so that they do not lose important nutrients. B, dieters should eat fruit in small quantities because it contains fructose. C, dieters should eat processed foods instead of fruit because they do not contain fructose. D, dieters should cut calories by eliminating all foods containing fructose.
D.
D
as in boy.
D
It's-
as in dog.
A.
D.
A.
Yeah, although fruit contains fructose, it says right there, it also contains many beneficial nutrients. So dieters shouldn't eliminate fruit from their diets.
Oh, okay. So it's A.
So A. Okay, so before I submit here, let me run through these 5 real quick before we move on. So 1 is D as in dog. 2 is B as in boy. 3 is C as in cat. 4 is A. And 5 is A. So we're all caught up there. All right. So I'm good.
Was what?
Which number?
4. My
4.
computer's breaking up really bad.
Okay, 4 is A. All right, so 1 is D, 2 is B, 3 is C, 4 is A, and 5 is A. Okay, so that's submitted. Now I'm going to the next activity. Unit 1, Lesson 5, Cause and Effect Workbook. Okay. And again, it's just restating the skill here. So we know a cause is the event that makes something happen. The effect is what happens. And then, sometimes it can be implied and never directly stated. So here, it says one cause may have several effects, and one effect may have several causes. Cause may be explicit or clearly stated. The house fire was caused by a burning candle, right? Eliminates any guesswork there. We know exactly what happened. There was a fire. What caused the fire? A burning candle. Sometimes, however, a cause is implied or not directly stated. A house fire last night left 3 people without a home. They had been burning candles. In both examples, the burning candle is the cause and the house fire is the effect. So if you're not as sure, right, you can kind of, that you're not even assuming here, right? You're just giving details, but the reader can then imply, okay, well, they were burning candles. That is most likely the cause. All right, and a new passage here, going greener in schools. Classrooms are slowly going green, prodded by rising energy bills, public health concerns, and a general desire to adopt eco-friendly principles. Green schools cost a little more to build, generally 1 to 2% extra than conventional schools, but promise payback through lower utility bills, and some studies suggest better student achievement. Ohio has been a leader in the green school movement. Using money received through a legal settlement with tobacco companies, they are planning to build 250 green schools over the next 2 years. The state expects to save $1.4 billion in energy costs over the next 40 years thanks to the program. Studies in 1999 and 2003 by the Heshong Mahone Group, a California consulting firm that promotes energy efficient design, found that children generally fared better on math and reading tests in schools where natural light was more prevalent because it improved student focus and achievement. Daylighting, as it is called, is encouraged because it cuts down on energy bills by reducing the need for artificial lighting. And back up to our underlying text. So here, the excerpt is about classrooms going green or becoming more aware of the impact they have on the environment. As you read, look for clues that might lead you to understand why these classrooms are going green. So yeah, you know, looking at the title, you see going greener in schools. That's the main idea here. We're talking about green schools. What's causing that? That's one of the questions you can ask yourself. Are they going to answer that? What way is this passage going? What are they looking for? Or what are they telling me? And same here. So you can make an assumption about an effect of Ohio schools going green on the basis of the information about green schools. And the study from California, think about how daylighting would affect the performance of Ohio schools. Again, so under that, the underlying part there found that children generally fared better on math reading tests in schools where natural light was more prevalent. Okay, so we'll start workbook. And oh, did it actually start at the top this time? It sure did. All right. Okay, so mine started at the top. Hopefully everybody else's did. And so inside the items here, questions about cause and effect relationships often begin with the word why. The word result in a question indicates an effect. The verb affect means influence and asks a question about an effect. We're going to cover this later too, right? Affect and effect are two very commonly confused words. Affect is the verb, effect is a noun. And of course, it makes it so much worse because those two are related. So keep that in mind as we move forward. Affect is the verb, effect is the noun. Okay, so our first question here, why are classrooms growing green? A, construction of green schools is inexpensive. B, education about eco-friendly environment is needed. C, energy bills and public health concerns are rising. D, the government is forcing new schools to go green.
C as in cat.
I think C.
C.
C. C is in cat. Energy bills and public health concerns are rising. C. Okay. Yeah, and the same passage here. So according to the studies, how did natural light affect test results? A, natural light helped children finish tests faster. B, children did better on math and reading tests. C, daylighting cut down on energy costs. D, reduced energy bills allowed time for individual instruction.
C.
E.
B, right?
B as a
That-
boy.
Is explicitly stated that reading and math tests improved under natural light. All this other stuff, you got to be careful here, right? So A sounds pretty good. Natural light help children finish tests faster. Well, that might be. And, so there's some things you could kind of assume, but we know for sure because it's explicitly implied, or it's explicit. It is not implied. Okay, next passage, violent video games. All right, so Republican and Democrats alike screamed government waste last March when a group of senators suggesting spending $90 million to study how video games and other electronic media influence children's behavior. Surely an important question, critics of the plan said, but $90 million? Some believe that in any case, the verdict is already in. This month, the American Psychological Association called for a reduction of violence in all video games, saying the evidence from 20 years of research on the subject was clear. They based their conclusion largely on the work of Kevin M. Kiefer, a psychologist at St. Leo University near Tampa, Florida, who prepared an analysis of dozens of relevant studies. He found that, in general, children exposed to virtual bloodshed showed greater short-term increases in hostility towards peers and authority figures than those exposed to more benign games. And many of the studies included in the analysis were randomized, rebutting the notion that aggressive people are simply drawn to violent games, Dr. Kiefer found. In the end, the study's findings may be more in line with public opinion. On the day its findings were announced, a jury in Alabama reached a guilty verdict in the case of Devin Moore, who killed 3 people when he was 18, and his defense blamed the video game Grand Theft Auto. Studies generally show that violent video games can have short-term or momentary effects on children, but there's little evidence of long-term changes. That's an article from the New York Times. The claim, violent video games make young people aggressive, in 2005. So why did Republicans and Democrats not want to spend $90 million on a video game study? They agreed that A, it was too much money, B, solution had already been found, C, subject of violent games did not merit further study, or D, a study of electronic media.
Is it B?
It's A, right? A study.
Too much money to spend.
Spend. Yeah, 3 there. It is A. Okay. All right, same passage. Okay. And then the passage states, the American Psychological Association based their conclusion largely on the work of Kevin M. Kiefer, a psychologist at St. Leo University near Tampa, who prepared an analysis of dozens of relevant studies. Paragraph 2, the results of these studies showed A, no connection between violent video games and hostility in children, B, increased short-term and long-term hostility in children exposed to violent games, C, increased short-term hostility in children, or D, no change in short-term hostility among all children.
C?
C, right? It only showed hostility, a short-term hostility in children exposed to violent games. So that's a matter of detail, right? You want to be check on your detail there when you're reading. That's one of those ones you might want to go back and reread where you found that information to make sure that you didn't miss anything. And number 5, how does the verdict in the court case support the study's conclusion about the effects of viewing violent video games? So A, the jury agreed that watching violent videos had long-term effects and was a defense for murder. B, the jury agreed that the murder could not have been caused by the short-term effects. C, the jury agreed that the short-term effects of violent video games were to blame because the murder happened immediately after the defendant watched the video. Or D, the jury agreed that violent videos affected children only, so the defendant was found guilty because he was not a child.
B.
B as in boy, right? The jury agreed that the murder could not have been caused, right? Because he was still found guilty, even though part of his defense rests on that he played violent video games. Okay. And a new passage here, keeping your cool. So many people love the summer months, but hot and humid days can sometimes be dangerous. It's not good for the body to be too hot for too long. Too much heat can damage your brain and other organs. It's important to keep your cool when the days are hot. Your body has its own natural cooling system. Sweating is key to cooling when hot weather or exercise causes your body temperature to climb. When sweat dries, it carries heat away from your body surface and lowers your temperature. When sweating isn't enough to help you cool down, you're at risk for a heat-related illness called hyperthermia. Hyperthermia can happen to anyone: older people, infants, and young children, and people who are ill, obese, or on certain medications are especially at risk. These people may be more sensitive to the effects of extreme heat and less likely to sense or respond to changes in temperature. High temperatures can cause various organs within the body not to function optimally, says Dr. Marie Bernard, Deputy Director of NIH's National Institute on Aging. Excess body heat can stress the heart and harm the brain, might even lead to a coma. Hyperthermia can cause several heat-related illnesses ranging from mild to serious. These include heat cramps, heat edema, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke. Air conditioning is the best way to protect against hyperthermia. If you don't have air conditioning, go to places that are cool on hot and humid days. Try community centers, shopping malls, movie theaters, libraries, or the homes of friends and family. Heat-related illness is preventable. Still, hundreds of deaths from extreme heat events occur in the United States each year. It's important to be aware of who's at greatest risk, so you can take steps to help beat the heat. Okay. So we have a drag and drop here. We need to find which boxes or phrases that indicate a possible effect of hypothermia. So out of there, which ones do we know are going to be in effect?
Sweating.
Sweating?
Yes.
That's not of hyperthermia, right? Sweating is going to be a way to help you avoid.
Heat
So
edema.
you heat
Or
edema.
body temperature.
No, we're looking for, so what would, like, hypothermia being the once you've overheated, that is you're in a state of hypothermia, right? Like a heat stroke. So what could be some of the effects there? What could you notice in people?
Malfunctioning organs.
There you go, malfunctioning organs. Now we're on the right track. Okay, what else?
Heat edema.
Heat edema, yeah. And we got one more.
Brain damage.
Brain damage. There you go. There's the three: malfunctioning organs, heat edema, or brain damage. There we go. Okay, and a new passage on poison ivy. So every year, poison ivy affects adults and children alike. The somewhat jagged leaves of the poison ivy plant grow in groups of 3 and may appear anywhere in wooded areas or even your own backyard. Poison ivy rash is an allergic reaction to urushiol, an oily substance in the poison ivy plant. Not everyone is allergic to poison ivy. In fact, many people experience no reaction at all. However, those who are susceptible to poison ivy can suffer great discomfort from an itchy skin rash. People usually contact poison ivy by touching part of the plant itself. However, because the sticky urushiol, I'm going to go with that, urushiol in the plant is the cause of the reaction. Contact with anything that has urushiol on it, such as clothing, accessories, tools, machinery, animal fur, can cause reaction. Rash may begin as a series of small blisters that appear in a straight line. The reason for this appearance is that the plant may have brushed against the skin in a linear pattern. The rash then may appear on other areas of the skin, causing some swelling, redness, and blisters. Generally, the more urushiol on the skin, the more serious the rash. No special treatment is needed for most cases of poison ivy, although some over-the-counter medications are available to relieve pain and sometimes constant itching. Serious cases, however, may require the use of corticosteroids. If someone with poison ivy scratches the rash and blisters break, bacteria under the fingernails may cause the skin to become infected. A doctor probably will prescribe antibiotics if such an infection occurs. Poison ivy is neither contagious nor spread by open blisters. It is spread by contact with the urushiol. So touching anything with urushiol and then touching another part of the body can cause the rash to spread. Despite the discomfort of the poison ivy rash, more serious than direct physical contact with the urushiol is breathing its fumes. If the plant is burned, inhaled smoke can affect the lungs. So number 7, what causes the poison ivy rash? A, direct contact with 3-leaf plants, or B, urushiol from the poison ivy plant. So I think I heard B. Yeah, B as in boy. So it's the oil on the plant, right? And there's your direct cause and effect, right? What causes it? The oil. All right. And then a large amount of urushiol on the skin may cause A, effective protection from poison ivy, B, less susceptibility to bacterial infection, C, more blisters but less redness, or D, more severe cases of poison ivy.
D.
D as in dog, right? The more contact you have with it, the worse off you're gonna be. D. Okay, number 9. What causes the poison
So
ivy?
my drag and drop is not working for that one. I'm listening and I'm doing this with you guys, but I just keep going back up to try to put brain damage in my box and it will not let me. I think it's because my laptop screen is too small. So that one is going to be wrong.
Okay, that's fine. You know, what's really important, I tell students this all the time, is make sure you know the right answer. You know, if you're missing 1 or 2 here, and again, we're going to run into situations where the answer key is wrong. So as long as you're following along and you're getting the right answer and you know what the right answer is, that's what's really important. Okay. Yeah. So what causes the poison ivy rash to spread to other parts of the body? So was it A, pus from broken blisters, B, brushing against a cat or dog, C, touching items contaminated by urushiol, or direct contact with another person who has poison ivy?
C.
maybe?
C.
C.
C. Yeah, you have to come in contact with that oil. And 10. So what is one possible effect of scratching a poison ivy rash? The blisters can burst and spread from one area to another. B, skin can become infected from bacteria. C, the oil can spread, causing fever and swelling. D, lungs and nasal passages may become irritated.
B as in boy.
B, right? Yeah, it's if you scratch them and you have bacteria in your fingernails. I used to always think that I was always told, and I guess it's sort of like an old urban legend, that if you scratch it, it spreads, right? But yeah, that's what I always thought. But apparently that's not the case. That, you know, whatever's coming out of it isn't going to actually spread it. So it's probably just because it's already on your hands. So anyway, B as in boy. And then finally, 11, this is the last one. Considering the causes of poison ivy, washing thoroughly immediately after contact with the poison ivy plant might help A, get rid of the oil on the skin, B, prevent the spread of infection, C, keep the skin clean, D, lubricate areas of dry skin.
B as in boy.
It's A.
I got A.
Right, that's the most direct thing, is getting rid of the oil, so then you don't spread it. So A is there. A few years ago, my daughter found some poison sumac. And so I'm going to go ahead and stop here. We'll go over the answers here in a second.